Good evening. The opinions and statements voiced by our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this network. Enjoy the shows.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection.
Now, historic films made in the spring of 1948 and just released show Eniwetok preparing for heavily guarded and still largely secret tests of new atomic weapons. The test's purpose is to measure atomic effects on thousands of different materials, 30,000 tons of them, not, as at Bikini, to prove military effectiveness.
San Francisco police say that 9 persons have been arrested in a narcotics raid on the headquarters of the Grateful Dead, a widely popular singing group. 2 members of the group, Rod McKernan and Robert Weir, and their business manager, Danny Rifkin, have been booked on suspicion of possessing narcotics.
3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11. Tower cleared.
We got a roll program. Neil Armstrong reporting the roll and pitch program, which puts Apollo 11 on a proper heading.
I'm going to step off the limb now. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Well, strange lights are causing a viral buzz on YouTube. Could we have caught extraterrestrial activity on a recent newscast? Brandon Arroyo investigates.
As the newscast ended, the controversy began back on September 26th. What is that light shining in the back of the dark night sky?
With coverage reaching all the way back to 1948, for over 70 years, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Now, Fate Magazine Radio is carrying on that tradition of setting the standard in paranormal talk radio as we report and discuss some of the most mysterious and perplexing phenomena imaginable in this strange world of ours. Now, here is your host of Fate Magazine Radio, Kat Hobson.
Good evening. Welcome to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I'm Kat Hobson, and I am your host for tonight with Fate Mag Radio, the online voice of Fate Magazine. I want to first and foremost wish a good recovery and being thankful for a great outcome for our host Denise Pridemore, who had surgery yesterday and day before yesterday, and is already at home, and it appears to have gone very well. So thank you all for the prayers for her. Appreciate it. She's tired, sore, and a little hoarse. That would be a pony. But at any rate, I am glad that everything went well for her. I am also going to let the people around my area know that be careful with these storms that are coming through tonight, because we're going to have a lot of flooding and a lot of scary bangs and all that stuff. So be sure you take your pets in, take care of them, and get all of that stuff grooving. Now, I have to tell you that I saw tonight's guest on Facebook and started following his posts a little bit and seeing things that he was talking about, and was really taken by his work, his research, the things he was sharing. And I sent him a message and said, I am so impressed with what I'm seeing. I would love to invite you to be a guest on Fate Mag Radio. Well, he said yes. And he sent me his bio, and I was like, oh my gosh, you're kidding me, right? I'm the only person on the planet that didn't know this guy. Let me tell you a little bit about him. He started researching his monsters. He saw The Legend of Boggy Creek in 1974. He became an investigator and got serious about it. But I find it interesting, his first real legend trip was to go and investigate Momo. Now, you know that we have had most of the guys from Small Town Monsters on here, and I just thought that was fantastic. So it just is, it progresses from there, okay? So he actually filmed segments on the Florida Skunk Ape for PBS's Weird Florida on the Road Again, which is a great show. Also, Monsters and Mysteries of America and Bigfoot in America on Destination. And he and his family appeared on Wife Swap as the Monster Hunting Family. For those of y'all who are fans of that show, I know there's a lot. So, along with Bigfoot and other cryptids, obviously, Robert also investigates haunted places, UFOs, buried treasure, and mysterious places. He's an active member of every group that has ever caught my eye. MUFON, the International Cryptozoology Society, the British Columbia Scientific Cryptozoology Club, the Ghost Club, the International UFO Museum, and one of my very favorites, David Childress' own World Explorers Club. He is also the Florida representative for the North American Dogman Project, and those are some serious researchers as well. I've met the founders and really enjoyed my time with them. He is an investigator and member of the UFO Hunters of America as well. He's also a public speaker. He spoke at the 2016 International Cryptozoology Conference, the Mothman Festival, the Ohio Bigfoot Conference, Crypticon, South Florida Paranormal Conference, and the Hocking Hills Bigfoot Conference. He has written for numerous magazines, but not Fate. So what's up with that? I'll tell you in a bit. So at any rate, his books, Legend Tripping, The Ultimate Adventure, came out in 2016. He wrote the chapter on the Florida Skunk Ape in the Wood Knox Volume 3, which was David Weatherly's series that so many of our guests have had part of. And his new book, International Legend Tripping, Adventure Outside the Box, will be coming out this fall. And Adventures Unlimited Press published both of these books, and will publish the second one, I guess I should say. So I'm going to tell you, Sherry in chat says, well, too bad you have nothing to do. But I want y'all to welcome Robert Robinson. And Rob, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thank you for having me on. I'm really looking forward to this.
I am too. I'm sorry I didn't know about you when I reached out to you. All I knew was that you were impressive in your work and your research and in your sharing of same. I just thought you were an interesting person, which you are.
Oh, thank you.
And I think probably it's a really big compliment that without knowing your background, your work impressed me enough that I reached out to you.
Well, I'm glad you did.
But I am too. And you said that you have been a Fate breeder for years, right?
Since I was a kid. I was, like I said, you mentioned that I got, the Legend of Boggy Creek was kind of the beginning. And, one of my teachers introduced me to Ivan T. Sanderson's books and John Keel's. And, you know, I was just like, man, I wish there was a magazine out there. And I remember going to the newsstand, and then one day I saw Fate, and there was something on the cover. I don't remember at the time, but I picked it up and said, oh, here it is, a book about the unexplained, or a magazine. And so I just, you know, I kept a lookout for it every time it came out, and it was just, I just enjoyed reading it. It was just it's something that, you know, I meant. In fact, I was lucky enough that when I was overseas stationed over in Europe, the Stars and Stripes bookstore always, you know, every month had a copy of the Fate magazine when it did come out.
That's cool. I think that I love when I talk to somebody who has grown up and, you know, enjoyed this magazine, because I'm very proud to represent it. It is one of my favorite reads myself, and I was very appreciative that the most recent edition featured mermaids, because I am one. Or do my very best to live as one. I love the water. So, yeah, it's just great that it will be interesting, I think, to you at this point to know that I have interviewed so many people who have written for Fate, but I didn't know it until in the conversation. So it's just an interesting connection that people that do what you do and so many different things. I'm a paranormal investigator. I'm a ufology researcher. And, you know, it's something that just seems to be a common denominator.
Like I said, I have been looking for the poster from the very first issue of Fate, you know, which features the 1947 Kenneth Arnold UFO incident, which I just, when I saw that, I said, I have got to have a poster of that. It's just a neat looking picture.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, I can give you contact information for our editor, who is brilliant. She knows everything about our archive. She maintains them meticulously. And if there is any way to, she might be able to hook you up with one.
That would be awesome.
I don't know that there is, but she gets archives for people all the time. I had a guest on who had submitted and didn't know that she had been printed until I said something after the show to Phyllis, and she was like, well, that was printed. Give me her, you know, snail mail address. So she sent her a couple of copies of the Fate that her story was in.
Well, I still have I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
I still have a large collection of Fate magazines. I have some of the old ones with Ivan T. Sanderson, and in fact, I have them in plastic because I don't want anything. I mean, I still use them for reference material when I'm, you know, doing research or writing up articles.
That's nifty. That really is neat. So, well, let's talk about you.
Okay.
Because you really have, you know, the year after you saw the Legend of Boggy Point, you were actually at Loch Ness, but hadn't started investigating yet, right?
That's correct. My mother's British. Well, she's from Scotland. And when my father was sent overseas, I believe it was 75, 76, we finally had the opportunity to go up to Loch Ness with my mother's friends. And unfortunately, we didn't get to stay up there very long because we went to Edinburgh and some other places to visit there as well. But we did make it up to Loch Ness, and I was really taken back how big Loch Ness was. As a kid, for some reason, I just pictured a lake, and it is by far a lot bigger than a lake. You know, it was called a loch, but it was just, everyone that says, oh, this is my Graceland. Well, definitely Loch Ness is definitely my Graceland. We stayed for a couple hours. We walked down. I did see National Geographic out there, which I later learned years later that I guess Robert Ballard was out there, the gentleman that discovered the Titanic.
Yes.
And I mean, I'm not saying I saw him because I didn't, but I did see the boat. I mean, I did see the vehicles and some of the water platforms they were using out there. And I said, oh, wow, National Geographic. But and then later I read an issue of National Geographic and found out Robert Ballard was out there. So, and it was pretty, and they didn't really have a museum. They had a displays in there for you to look at, but they didn't really have now they have a really nice museum down there from what I understand. And hopefully someday I'll get to get back out and see it. But I mean, it's a beautiful area. It was cold, but it's a very, I mean, even if you don't go up there to see, look for Nessie or the Loch Ness Monster, it itself is just a beautiful area.
Well, that's what I understand. And hopefully in 2022, I will be going to Scotland. I don't think I'm going to be in the area of Loch Ness, but I would absolutely love that. That's going to be pretty good. I'm excited to see all of the things. But it's a paranormal tour, and I have no idea what to expect.
Are you going to see the underground parts of Edinburgh?
The Queen Mary's Close, I'm going to go there, yes. Parts of it. I've never been. I have a friend who is a Scottish aficionado, and it's just going to be trying to see it through things that I've already been told, and yet still being fresh with it.
No, okay. Well, definitely, I mean, there's a lot of paranormal activity over in Europe, that's for sure, especially in England and Scotland.
Well, we're going to actually be staying in some castles and stuff, so that's kind of nifty.
Ooh, that sounds exciting.
I think so. Well, when you were there with your mom, did you have any paranormal experiences yourself, or have you been back since and had some?
Not up to Scotland. I've been to England when I was in the military. When I was there as a kid, we went to Fountains Abbey, and we were told that it was haunted. And we did go out one night, and but there was a lot of other tourists and visitors in the area. But I did, in the back of my mind, thinking, "Wow, this place is haunted." I should be on the lookout for stuff. But we visited my mom's old boss, and he owned a small hotel, and he related to us that the place was haunted. That they had seen the image or a full body apparition of a woman that used to live there from time to time. But let me think, what else did I see there? Oh, that's all I can recall at the time, as a kid going over there. But I do want to go back.
Well, I've never.
I was like, gosh, there's so much stuff because, the oldest ghost club is what's called the Ghost Club is in England, and when I was researching my new book, International Legend Tripping, I contacted them and say, hey, I'm doing this book, and I want to do talk about you guys and all that, and they said we'll do one better. We'll have you join. I said that's even better, and. Totally. Yeah, and after I joined, they said, well, what do you need from us? And I said, well, this is what I'm doing some stuff. I want to feature some haunted places that, a lot of people don't know about, I mean, everybody knows of, the popular places haunted over in England, but not many people know some of the smaller ones, some of the, haunted forests and stuff like that. And next thing you know, I started getting all these emails with articles on them. And I was like, holy cow.
No doubt. Well, I'm going to have to interrupt you because no, don't apologize. This is just business. But we need to take a break, and I know that I'm going to have so many questions about all these new places that we won't be able to stop in time. So we are going to go ahead and get this going. So y'all just enjoy the break and y'all come back with us. We'll see you on the flip side.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope.
That'll do. Hello, I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama. Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
This is Jason Bland, host of Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, where we stream live as a webcast every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, with guests who will blow your mind. Live ghost box sessions where you can call into the show to see if the spirits will talk to you, and the world wide web of weird with the latest in paranormal news and evidence. We're bringing the weird every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow and subscribe.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to Fate Mag Radio. I am so glad you're here. I'm Kat Hobson, your host, and I am joined tonight by Robert Robinson. He is just a neat guy. He is very much a legend tripper. And before we go any further, I interrupted him going into this break as you were talking about your ghost club in England sending you more information. But we have a question for you about that.
Okay.
And that is, have you ever been to Bolton Priory in Yorkshire where a girl had her necklace pulled and another person went unconscious?
I don't remember. When I was living in England as a kid, I lived in Harrogate, which is in the Yorkshire area. The only place I remember, because this is back 1975-76, was Fountains Abbey, and that was one of my places I really liked going. And it had a history. In fact, legend has it that's where Robin Hood, met up with Friar Tuck. But it also has a long history of paranormal activity, and portions of the Abbey were used to make Fountains Manor, which is a large manor right next to Fountains Abbey, and it too is haunted. But back to that original question, not that I know of. I should say I don't remember.
Well, that's just something to add to your list of places to go.
Yeah, absolutely. My bucket list gets bigger every time.
It has to. There's so many fantastic places, and you really are going international.
Absolutely. It's funny because, after I did the first book, Legend Tripping, which is pretty much, in the United States and a little bit of portions in Canada, David Hatcher Childress, my publisher, contacted me and said, okay, well, this one's doing really good. What are you going to do for the second book? And I said, wow, I didn't really think about it. So, that night I was thinking, so what's bigger than, Legend Tripping in the U.S.? And I said, well, the world. So,
totally.
And I haven't gone to Loch Ness as a kid and living in England and being in the military and visiting Italy and Europe and Turkey and stuff. And even though when I was stationed over there, I had an interest in it, I would like to have done more, but, being in the military, the military has priority. But I started getting on the internet and, again, I got a hold of the Ghost Club. I got a hold of a paranormal group in Singapore. And, I mean, Singapore has got some really neat places. They got a haunted hospital, Chunji Hospital. And if you ever type it in, Dave, there's all kinds of videos out of of activity that goes on. Now the government has put a fence around the place to stop people from going in, but they do allow, from my understanding, talking to this ghost group, they do allow, them to, production companies to go in there and film, but they because of the fact it is an old abandoned hospital and there is no power in there, people can get hurt and they're worried about accidents and stuff. But other things, as far as UFOs and stuff, I mean, everybody thinks, United States is, the big mecca of flying saucer sightings, but that's, it's far from true. There's
Really?
places all over the world, that have had some some extraterrestrial activity. And on the subject of cryptozoology, most people, when they hear the word Bigfoot, pretty much think, the United States, Bigfoot. But there have been sightings of large, hairy, bipedal creatures all over the world. I mean, even England, Europe. Great Britain's had sightings with, of the wild man. And I was just really taken back how much is out there. Australia has the Yowie, China has the Yeren, Russia has the Almista or Alma for short. And there's been, sightings of creatures down in South America, and Mexico's got a Bigfoot. So I was really, I said, wow. I mean, and in fact, my book got thicker and thicker as I researched, and I was like, holy cow, where am I going to put a line and stop? I was just, the information just kept coming in. And I found mysterious places, haunted places. I just couldn't, believe how many haunted places there. I was, about the mindset that England was the most haunted country in the world, or I should say Great Britain. But I tell you, Australia has got a lot of paranormal activity going on down there. And I was just like, wow. And I contacted a friend of mine who actually is not into paranormal. He does a bushcrafting video on YouTube. But I asked him to look into stuff, and he gave me a couple names of people. And, we conversed back and forth, on the internet. And they gave me a lot of information to put into my book. So, it's just, I was really taken back how much stuff is out there. And I called David. I said, David, this book's going to be bigger than the first one. He goes, outstanding. That's what I want to hear.
Well, that is totally his take on things, right? He is so enthusiastic and just enjoys so much stuff.
And I tell you, he is the secret behind my books. I mean, David looks at them, reads them, and, I'll send him a chapter, and they say, well, Rob, take this out. You're going in a different direction. Let's keep it, okay, I like this. I want more on it. You know, this is really good. Let's put some more stuff into this. And like I said, he is the secret behind my 2 books.
Well, there you go. You know, people think that he's so laid back, and he is. He's very comfortable with, in his own skin. But he's also very enthusiastic for other people's success and other people's projects. And he has boundless enthusiasm for adventure travel.
Oh, so, I tell you. Yeah, he does. Yes, he does. Absolutely.
He is something else. I like that. So, since he is just feeding you, feeding you all this great positivity, have you decided to perhaps go on some of his tours?
Well, financially, I have to. I mean, I'm a high school instructor, so
I do know that.
Yeah, we are. Me and my wife do discuss that, and I hope so. I guess the quick answer to that question is I would really love to go on one of David's trips, and I have talked to people that have gone on his trips, and they can't speak high enough for him.
Right.
David knows his subject. And there isn't a question out there he can't answer. And yeah, I do. I hope one of these times I do get to go on one of his trips, which are usually mostly in South America and down in Mexico and stuff.
Well, I do know that he goes to Europe a good bit.
Yeah, I think he has. But the ones that I was I guess I should say the ones I was really looking or considering is I'm going to say this wrong. Is Machu Picchu? I never get it wrong.
Machu Picchu, yes, and that would be mine too. That's in Peru, the Bolivia area, all through there, and that is someplace that he does well. Why would that be your pick for a place to go? Just because of the notoriety of it, or just because it's so very old?
That's a good. Nobody's asking me that. I guess it's a very cool looking place, and I have met people that have gone there, and it's a beautiful area. It's quite. If you have a fear of heights, may not be a good choice to go to, because they told me that some of the stairways are very steep, and I mean I'm not sure if they put any safety bars in there, but one of my friends who went said there was no safety bars at the time, but this was a number of years ago. And when you get up there, it's just the feeling of this place is just, you just sense a mystery of just walking around it. And he said, it's big, but it wasn't as big as he thought it was. I mean, you can get up there and walk around and see a lot of the stuff that they will allow you to look at, because some of it's he said some of the area was was shut off because they were still doing archaeological digs in there, and when they're doing that, they don't want you messing with it. But he said he was able to walk around and see some pretty steep looking down at the area, and he said you have to be in pretty good shape too to get up to this area.
Yes.
And he said when he got up there, a lot of people were really having some difficulty breathing, and but they had water for everyone, and they told him to relax and just, get yourself acclimatized to the altitude and stuff. And he was taken back about, again, about the view up there, the surrounding area, and you're in what is it? Sheer wonderment on how these people built this place up there. It's just a marvel to look at.
Well, it is a marvel just to see it even on television. That would be one of my destinations of choice as well. And I think Peru is fascinating in its own right.
Mm-hmm.
But when you add the other countries around there where all of this stuff is included, it will take you aback. I mean, you just don't expect it to be spread from pillar to post across countries. So I hope that you get there, because I would love to see your chronicling of your experiences there. I'd buy that book.
Now, the top of my bucket list is Nepal. If somebody came up and said, Rob, we'll give you one opportunity to go someplace, anywhere in the world, where is it? It's Nepal. Because I've always wanted to go see Kathmandu and all that. And of course, I'd like to go see where, the land of the Yeti.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's definitely the top of it, and David's been there, and he always just said, oh, Robbie, you need to go. I said, I'd love to go. He goes, it is expensive too, Rob. It is really expensive. I said, oh, thank you. That's all I needed to hear.
Yeah. That means it will be in a few years. But that's okay. It will still be there, I would imagine, because it's been there for all this time.
Oh yeah, I mean it's just a neat place. From what when I was doing research on the place.
I think it is too, and it actually is almost legendary, just with the history of the place. What is it, other than because it's very cool and because that is the home of the Yeti, what is it that seems to be pulling you there?
Well, it's the Yeti. To be honest with you, it's the whole story. I mean, as a kid, I read stories by Ivan C. Sanderson about it and John Keel, especially John Keel's book, Jado. Fantastic book. Oh, I've read it a couple times, actually. And just the whole idea, that, this is one cryptid legend that will not go away. People, there was a gentleman that took some DNA and, some samples and said, oh, it's a Himalayan bear. But, the people up there said, no, it's not a bear. We know what the Himalayan bear looks like. This is not the bear. It's something else. And, I watched Josh Gates' special he did on the Yeti. I've watched a couple of them on National Geographic about it. And it just, because, here in here in the United States, we have a lot of people that go out and look for Bigfoot. And that's why I think, eventually we'll get the evidence, or somebody's going to, we'll find the evidence to prove that these animals are real, for science, mainstream science. But, with the Yeti, there's not a lot of people up there looking for the Yeti. You got a couple people every now and then get to go up there, but not a lot. Whereas, here in the United States, in fact, here in Florida, there's a lot of groups that go out looking for the Florida skunk ape, which is Florida's version of Bigfoot.
Well, and that actually is your expertise point, isn't it?
I consider myself a top researcher. I always, when people say, oh, you're an expert on Bigfoot, I said, well, I don't think there really is an expert. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? I said, well, I'll give you an example. Jane Goodall, she is an expert on, the mountain gorilla. And if you were to go up to Jane and say, Jane, I want you to show me one of those gorillas. Jane can show you a gorilla. She can take you up there and say, there they are. For me to say I'm an expert on Bigfoot, and you say, well, show us a Bigfoot. I couldn't do it. I mean, I can show you some sightings have happened, and I can show you some castings of footprints. But I can't. I wouldn't be able to do it, which is why one reason I don't charge people when they want to come out Bigfoot, go out on research with me, because I feel if somebody's going to pay me money, I should be able to produce some a Bigfoot or a skunk ape. But they're more than welcome to. I mean, I definitely consider myself a top researcher on the whole sightings of this animal and stuff. I do have, my theories on what this animal might be, but I don't actually feel I'm an expert.
Well, I know that in the paranormal field, people are quick to say, oh, well, there's no experts. But I know that if I have an object, I'm taking it to Johnny Zaffis, right? If I have other experiences, there are people that I consider best in the field. And while they may not like to use the term expert, and everybody else is very quick to negate the word expert from, the paranormal vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
There are. And, in my opinion.
Okay.
So I think that people that are out doing the work and documenting it, like, in your field specifically, that would be, you, David Weatherly, Dave Spinks. There's a lot of others as well. And, when I had a question, someone had brought to me about a cryptid moment that they lived through. It wasn't anything I'd ever heard of before.
Mm-hmm.
So, I didn't know you at the time,
Mm-hmm.
but I did have, other friends in the field, and I sent them messages and said, how would you go about researching this? Because it was a very bizarre moment. It's not a cryptid I'd ever heard of before. It was in Northeast Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And, basically it was described as a glowing pterodactyl that attacked their vehicle. And I was just like, a glowing pterodactyl? Really? And
what's out there?
yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of things that don't have explanations. But I just sent a message to a friend of mine in the cryptid field and said, where would you even try to start with this? Because I have never, ever heard of this happening here. So, it was just kind of like bizarre. Have you ever heard of anything like that?
I know some stories of the Firebird, or of some flying, there's some stories out of Illinois.
I've heard of Thunderbirds, but this was didn't fit that description. Maybe your Firebirds would.
I'll have to look that one up. I don't know right off the bat, but I do know where to get up there and research. Speaking of David Weatherly, one of the top researchers in the field. I mean,
without doubt.
In fact, I'll be honest with you. When I have questions, I call David. I said, David, I'm doing this, and in fact, I asked David to look at some of the stuff I had. Would you check this over and make sure that I'm on target? And I didn't, put something I shouldn't put down. And, David would, read it and say, oh, no, Rob, you're on this, So, I mean, there's, Ken Gerhardt, another one. Lauren Coleman, of course.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Top cryptozoologist in the United States. I mean, In fact, he did the foreword for my first book. And, Lauren's definitely top in his field. And there's you got Lyle Blackburn.
I've interviewed him, yes.
Done some of the best, most extensive research on the legend of, the Falk monster. Mm-hmm. There's some others out there. I'm trying to think of, got Matt Moneymaker with the BRFO.
Yes.
Cliff Reckman, which I do know, I'm proud to say I do know these gentlemen. I know them pretty good. So, I mean, definitely top in their field. It's just me personally, I just don't, the whole expert thing. My wife,
they'll tell you they're not experts too.
My wife is actually more or less is the one who got me into the paranormal. It's kind of funny because it's how we came up with the turd legend tripping.
Oh, okay. You're going to have to tell me after the break.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. I love doing that. Cliffhangers, but we will be right back. Y'all come back too.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello, I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back. If you have any questions that you would like to put in here for Rob, just join our chat room. It is easy to find. You go to Spreaker.com and you just Google or just search Fate Mag Radio. It'll bring you right in. You can just hit the chat option as well as listen. It's great. I'm assuming you're already listening if you're going to be calling in with a question. So didn't mean to be redundant there. Now, I interrupted you, Rob. Welcome back, by the way. And you were telling me about your wife getting you involved in this.
Yeah, what it was my wife would always comes out with me when I go out Bigfoot hunting, as we call it, or just, other things. But she doesn't really have, she goes out there, but I'm not really sure. She'll tell you she's not quite a believer yet till she sees it. Right. But she's had some interesting experiences out there. But she does enjoy the paranormal. And she, right after that TV show Ghost Hunters came on, she hooked up with some of the ghost hunting groups and went out. And I would go out with her, and she would set up her cameras and all that stuff. And what it was, she didn't want to be called a monster hunter, and I didn't want to be called a ghost hunter. So we found the term legend tripping, which Wikipedia defines it as the adolescent ritual of teenagers breaking into old buildings and stuff, which is not what legend tripping's about. No,
it's not.
It isn't. I rewrote it as to go on an adventure and research a local legend. So we started calling ourselves legend trippers, which we also I'm a part of MUFON.
Right.
And so the UFOs, but we also just go look, if we hear about some mysterious place, a gravity hill or something like that, we'll go out and look at that too. So, she still comes out with me. She's not all that keen about camping sometimes, especially here in Florida, but she does yeah, she does. And on some of our paranormal investigations we've done, we've seen or heard some pretty, really interesting evidence, has been recorded. So, it's kind of neat, and like I said, she's, very, she, unfortunately, a couple of years ago, she was diagnosed with Parkinson's, so she's had to slow up a little bit, but she still has a passion for it. She definitely, loves talking to fellow paranormal researchers. And, she's had, we did a investigation into an old jail. She felt something touch her. And, that kind of, that really freaked her out. In fact, I think, she said, I was ready to leave after that happened, she told me. My first paranormal experience that I can remember was when we were at Jupiter Lighthouse in Florida.
Oh, yes.
We had gone there with the family, my kids, And we had got to the top of the lighthouse. This is during the daytime. And we were looking around, and I heard it sounded like somebody was coming up the stairs, the metal stairs. So I immediately thought it was my wife's mom. But I looked down and saw her sitting in a little park bench. And I said, well, that's not her. Who is it? So I went inside and looked, and I'm looking around, and I can't see anything, but I can, and the stairs are, steps are getting louder as whatever it is coming up the stairs. And my kids kind of poked their head and said, well, who's coming up? And I said, I don't see anybody. And they're looking and like, what is this? So I'm like, So I immediately started going down the stairs. I said, there's got to be a logical explanation for this. It's a wind or something. I got to go find out what's going on. So I go down the stairs, and as I get toward where the noise is coming from, it stops. But I did feel a very cold feeling. When people tell you get an icy feeling.
True.
And I do remember that. And I was like, wow, where did that come from? And then I proceeded back, all the way to the bottom of the stair. And again, I'm looking around to see what could be making this noise, logically, making the noise, And I get back down to the bottom, and I'm just like, wow, that was. And then my kids yelled out, hey, we can hear it again. And I, listen, and you can hear it proceeding up the stairs. And it scared my kids enough to where they went back out on the landing. They didn't want to be in there where,
Oh, bless their hearts.
Yeah, so I immediately go up the stairs, which of course, wasn't an easy feat, and it was very extremely tiring trying to get up those stairs.
I climbed that lighthouse. That's a pretty steep lighthouse.
Yeah, if anybody's ever gone up a lighthouse, they know what I mean. So, I made it up to the top, and then we didn't hear any sounds anymore after that. And I'm just like, what was that? Well, when we got back down, we went over to the gift shop, and I asked the guy behind the counter, I said, listen, we heard, sounded like somebody was coming up the stairs when we were there. And he goes, oh, yeah, that lighthouse is haunted. We've had a lot of, experiences. It's rare in the daytime, but, we've had people see full, apparitions of a young girl there and stuff. And he goes, oh, yeah, it's haunted. And I went, wow. And I went, I said, hey, we heard a ghost, and they're like, we're not going up there again.
Well, I have found that I love climbing lighthouses. I have the little passport and thing. I climb every lighthouse I can come across. But it's interesting that so many of them really are. And in fact, when David wrote the Haunted Lighthouses book with Ryan, I think, I'll have to go back and look at my book. But it was amazing to me that these people were having all of these experiences. It's just, that's okay. I was just going to say it's fascinating.
Well, every lighthouse I have researched, especially ones here in Florida, all have a reputation of being haunted, except for one, and that's the Leon Inlet Lighthouse in near Daytona. And but I've also heard people say, because I asked, we went there and I was talking to the people that work there, and they go, no, this place isn't haunted. We don't have anything like that there. But then I have talked to some people who say, oh, don't listen to them. They've had some stuff happen out there. There've been some people that, been killed out there. And oh, yeah, this supposed to,
right.
So, even though, the Park Service says it's not haunted, some people say it is. Whereas, the St. Augustine Lighthouse, the whole park, they fully embraced the fact that their lighthouse is haunted. They even offer, ghost hunts out there.
Yeah, I have actually been to St. Augustine too, and that totally is haunted. There's no doubt in my mind whatsoever. Even my husband, who doesn't admit to having experiences, had one. So, it's just, I don't know why it's so common. I guess because they're old structures and people, for the most part, lived in them alone. But Jupiter was not that isolated. and neither was Ponce de Leon. So, what do you think that is?
Well, it's like the St. Augustine lighthouse. It's haunted by the lighthouse keeper's daughters that were killed there. There's been many recorded sightings of people seeing these little girls there, or heard them giggling, or heard them, and some of the people that work there, especially, at night, they've heard, these little girls and stuff, and sometimes they've been seen. Maybe these young girls don't know to cross over, or don't even know that they're dead. I've heard stories about people like that, especially young kids, which would kind of make sense. A child doesn't necessarily know that they're not with us anymore if their spirit is still continually doing what it used to do when it was when it was alive.
That's a great point. But I know that the Pensacola Lighthouse is also haunted.
Yes, it is.
So that one was a trip. And some of the best evidence I've ever gotten in one, too.
It is. I mean, even on the show, some of these ghost hunting shows, when they do a lighthouse, they end up pulling in some pretty compelling evidence.
Yeah, I guess that's my idea of legend tripping is the lighthouses. It's my favorite.
Well, they're definitely fun to go visit, as well as, and a lot of them now, the ones that do have a reputation for being haunted, do offer nighttime ghost hunts. Sometimes it can be kind of pricey. I do know the St. Augustine one can be pricey, but if you get yourself a large group of people, and it can actually, be, and there's other portions of the lighthouse too, some of the buildings out there.
Yes.
And also, so you can break your team up into your group into teams. Some can go do the lighthouse, where the other ones go do the other parts of the other buildings around the area.
Now, see, I think that would be fun. When I did the Pensacola Lighthouse, I was with 4 people, and that was very, very interesting, because we had little puck lights stuck all over the place, the kind you have to smack to make come on, and they were lighting up just on command. And sometimes if we were just, trying to decide which way to go or so, they would lighten a path. And it was the first time that I smelled, that I had an olfactory reaction. It was fresh flowers. I went looking for the fresh cut flowers, and the woman with the Historical Society said that it was, there were no fresh cut flowers. There were no flowers, period, or even on that side of the lighthouse, but that the keeper's wife used to make her own perfume. So I thought that was pretty neat. So I had never had that happen, and I love when I have the first time things, right?
Yeah.
So, and we had a question in chat. I don't know if it was for you, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Okay. And the one in Hampton Roads, which is Virginia Beach, I think, is it haunted, or have you ever heard of it being haunted?
I'll have to look that one up. I would say, like I said, that a lot of them are, but I'm not going to say all of them are. I'll have to. I will say this much: there are a lot of paranormal groups out there, and there's a lot of stuff out there on the internet. And all you do is type it in, and I guarantee, if there's anything been going on out there, somebody has documented it and has put it on the internet.
Absolutely.
And sometimes, and I've found that, these, I'm going to call them ghost hunters, groups, they're very, you write to them and say, hey, I'm going to be in the area. Are you guys and gals going to be going out? Because I'd like to go. And a lot of them are very accommodating. A lot of them say, yeah, come on, meet us over there. We're going to meet at this restaurant, and you can,
Yes.
we'll introduce you to everyone, and then we're going to go get a game plan together. We're going to, make sure everybody's got batteries in their equipment. Then we're going to get out there and we'll divide into groups and go do this and all. Very, very, the same thing too with a lot of the Bigfoot hunting groups.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been told no. I couldn't go with them out. Every time I have gotten a hold of some people and say, hey, I'm going to be in the area. Are you guys and gals going to be out doing anything? And say, well, if you come up on this weekend, we're going to be doing this. And yeah, we'd love to have you come on out.
Well, that is just very, very neat. I have been told that it was probably a little too rugged for me. And I'm like,
Well,
really?
It
don't
can
think so.
be. It can be. But a lot of times, if these animals are out there, they will come out and kind of, go around your camp and stuff. I'm not going to say they're going to come in and cause you any harm.
They're curious too.
Yeah. I always, of the theory, and I guess this is my theory, is that these pods, the family units, or the little groups of them, I use the word pod because that's what, for a group of gorillas is. So, but anyway, they usually have what they call a sentry or a guard that's out.
Yes.
And that animal, Bigfoot, is more of a lookout. So if humans are coming into the area, this sentry will say, hey, we got humans coming in our area. We got to go hide,
Yeah.
And again, when you're out there camping, they're going to come up and see what's going on. What are these people doing?
Because they're nosy.
Just tell you a story about ghosts.
You're going to have to tell me after the break because we are at the top of the hour. I can't believe it already. So this is a great time to fill your coffee mug, your beer stein, your tea glass, whatever is floating your boat tonight. And you know what I say? I'm always hopeful that there's going to be a little good news. So one more try. Here we go, guys. We will see you on the flip side of this broadcast. Thank you for being here, and we're looking forward to sharing our next hour with you.
Support for NPR comes from Sattva, the comfort company. Sattva luxury mattresses are sold online and priced at about 50% less than mattress stores. Visit sattva.com/NPR today and save an additional $225.
Live from NPR News, I'm Janine Herbst. A CDC advisory panel today unanimously endorsed Johnson & Johnson's single-dose COVID-19 vaccine a day after the FDA approved it for emergency use. NPR's Amy Held has more.
3.9 million doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine are ready to be distributed. By the end of June, it's 100 million. Combined with the other two authorized vaccines, more than enough to cover the entire U.S. adult population this summer. Johnson & Johnson's overall efficacy rate of 66% is lower than Pfizer and Moderna's. Still,
people should take the vaccine that they are able to access.
Dr. Janet Woodcock, acting FDA commissioner, says comparing the vaccines is difficult.
They were not studied in head-to-head trials.
In its own clinical trial, 1 month after vaccination, the Johnson & Johnson shot was found to provide complete protection against hospitalization and death. Amy Held, NPR News.
Two former staffers are now accusing New York Governor Andrew Cuomo of sexual assault. George Joseph of member station WNYC reports on the ongoing fight over who will conduct an investigation.
Governor Cuomo initially proposed that a former judge investigate the allegations, but he backtracked after state lawmakers pointed out that the judge used to work with one of his close associates. Now, the governor is proposing that an independent attorney review the accusations. The attorney would be selected by State Attorney General Letitia James and another judge who Cuomo himself appointed. But James, a fellow Democrat, says the governor needs to give her office subpoena powers and let it lead the probe. Top state Democratic lawmakers have broken with the governor and are supporting James's push to take charge of the investigation. For NPR News, I'm George Joseph in New York.
Police in Myanmar are cracking down on anti-coup protesters after another day of violence. The UN Human Rights Office says at least 18 people are dead and more are wounded across the country. Michael Sullivan has more from neighboring Thailand.
Police were out in force and quick to use force against protesters for a second straight day. In Myanmar's biggest city, Yangon, in Mandalay, and in other cities and towns around the country. The police used tear gas, rubber bullets, and in some cases live ammunition. A graphic video from Yangon shows one bloodied protester being dragged to safety by fellow demonstrators while the shooting continued. Other images showed wounded protesters hiding from police in dimly lit houses. The police seem intent on bringing an end to nearly a month of anti-coup protests. More than 800 people have been detained or charged since the February 1st coup, including the leader of the democratically elected government, Aung San Suu Kyi. For NPR News, I'm Michael Sullivan in Chiang Rai.
And you're listening to NPR News. Former President Donald Trump made his first speech since being impeached twice before he left office at the Conservative Political Action Conference, CPAC, in Florida. He told the audience today he has no plans to start a new party to compete with the Republican Party. The GOP is divided over supporting Trump after the deadly insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. 2 NASA astronauts completed a 7-hour spacewalk outside the International Space Station, prepping the orbiting outpost for new solar panels. From member station WMFE, Brendan Byrne has more.
Astronauts Kate Rubins and Victor Glover began installing mounting hardware for the new panels in the first of at least 2 spacewalks. NASA says the current solar panels are functioning well, but are beginning to show signs of deterioration. The new panels will augment the current ones and provide additional power to the orbiting lab. Rubins and Japanese astronaut Soichi Noguchi will conduct another spacewalk later this week to continue the bracket installation, along with other maintenance tasks for the station. The new panels are set to arrive at the ISS later this year on SpaceX's Crew Dragon spacecraft. For NPR News, I'm Brendan Byrne.
Florida wants to restrict 16 invasive reptile species that have wreaked havoc in the Everglades and across the state. The Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission voted last week to move the animals, including pythons, iguanas, and monitor lizards, to a prohibited list. That means they can only be brought to Florida for exhibition, such as a zoo or at a research facility. I'm Janine Herbst, and you're listening to NPR News.
Welcome back to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 5 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to Fate Mag Radio, the online voice of Fate Magazine. I am Kat Hobson, your host, and thank you for joining us for our second hour. I'm so excited to introduce you to Robert Robinson, who is a legend tripper extraordinaire. We have been discussing all kinds of cryptids, all kinds of experiences, all kinds of history that he has been gathering relevant to things that he's preparing to go and experience. So, Rob, welcome back.
Hey, thank you.
And, you know, I'm going to apologize because I had to interrupt you, and people don't always know that when we're at breaks, that conversation gets exciting too. I always say that somebody someday is going to record and write a book with all of these excerpts in it, but I don't think it's going to be me because I like people knowing that they can talk, right? And have some degree of privacy there. But we had been talking about the new Fate magazine having the mermaids cover an article in it, and you were telling me about your experience and your opinion about mermaids.
Yeah, when I was doing my new book, International Legend Tripping, I wanted to delve into some other, cryptid legends other than, the Bigfoot. And my dog just walked in. That's what you may have heard him do a shake there with us. But anyway, so I started looking, I found, stories of the dog man, which is seen all over. But I also found stories about these, and I call them aquatic humanoids, mermaids, And I was really surprised how many countries have stories and legends about these aquatic beings. And I mean, to a lot of these, it seems that to them it's a fact. It's not just a legend. I mean, there's a place, that actually have, statues or that's built to commemorate. I say that, commemorate the whole legend of these aquatic beings. And I mean, I was really surprised. I mean, I thought, legend, the mermaid thing was just pretty much a fairy tale, the Disney movie and all that. But when I started researching it, I was like, holy cow.
Right.
This really, I mean, and they've been seen all over the world. I mean, even the story of the creature of the Black Lagoon is a legend of an aquatic being that, said to inhabit the Amazons, So, I mean, it's just, it was really fascinating. I was like, holy cow, I'm really enjoying, some of the research. I mean, actually, I really, let me back up. I enjoy all the research that I do. But I get excited when I learn about things that I didn't know before.
Always, right?
What's that?
And there's a question in chat saying, is that the same thing as a siren?
Well, yes. I mean, the sirens are pretty much that legend derives from these aquatic beings.
Mm-hmm.
Different countries have different names for them. There's a place up in Norway where supposedly these beings come out of the water. They're, I think they look like a seal or something, but they'll shed their seal skin, and inside it is a human female. Well, there's a legend that a fisherman saw one of these beings come out of the water, and when she shed her seal skin, he went and hid it from her so she couldn't go back, into the water. And he ended up marrying this woman, and I guess they had some children, but she eventually did find her seal skin. I guess that's kind of weird. That he had locked up in a chest, and she went back into the sea. So
interesting.
Yeah, I don't even know if I really hit the tip of the iceberg on that one, because again, I was trying to find the ones that I hadn't picked. Some of the ones that, I couldn't use all of them because, with a lot of the legends, it would have just the book. It would have been an encyclopedia. I
imagine you ran into that a lot with your research. Now, I thought sirens were the negative side of the aquatic beings, but mermaids were the ones that you were discussing who would come ashore, the ones that were friendly to humans, that could have relationships. And I guess when they take off their seal suit, they don't have a fishtail or anything. They have legs, right? Or it'd be hard to get married. So, interesting.
What? Yeah, well, I mean, again, the siren is an aquatic humanoid that's out there that screams and either draws, ships to the dangerous rocks, or the sound is so bad that it drives them crazy. But
Yes.
It's still an aquatic humanoid.
Yes.
There are stories where these creatures are violent and have been known to drown, sailors and stuff. And there's other stories when they're very friendly. So, I mean, like I said, I don't know if I really even hit the tip of the eye. I mean, I'm sure I could have found more on it, but I tried to go through it and find what I thought was, kind of the exciting stuff.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
I am too. We're both excited about this topic.
Oh yeah.
But
I saw the cover of that and went, "Holy cow! Look at that!" It's just, I was just researching that.
Well, it's cool. I have always enjoyed mermaid legends, and April in chat says that Enoch says sirens are the mothers of Nephilim. But sirens basically, even all the way back to Homer in Greek mythology and writings, they were trying to wreck ships. Mm-hmm. They are not friends of humans. So it's just an interesting take on, blaming the female for the captain's bad decisions, right? But in reality, it is something that is a global legend.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they're seen down in, there's been sightings here in the United States on the coast. There's been sightings down around the South America, Australia, Turkey, in Mediterranean Sea. There's been sightings around Africa. I mean, they're all over the place. Mm-hmm. Kind of makes you wonder what's down there, because I mean, we've only, we still haven't explored everything in our oceans.
We can't even come close to delving the depths. Mm-mm. We've been on the moon for 4 decades. Mm-hmm. No, not quite 4. Since the 64, I think, mission.
Yeah, when we actually landed on the moon, yeah.
Yeah, but we've been doing that, and we can't even manage to go down deep enough to bring up wrecks in some cases. We have to use, AI to do that. So, that's why people are so puzzled, I think, with the fact that we know a lot more about the stars and space than we do about our own planet.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's always been my argument about, the whole idea of legends out there, science. Well, there's just no way there could be a large hairy creature out there. We would have seen it by now. No, you didn't. I mean,
Nobody saw that giant squid until it popped right up on the beach.
We're still discovering new animals. Every time I go on the internet, I say, "Oh, we just discovered this," and we discovered a new snake we didn't know before. So I mean, it's really arrogant to even say that we know every creature on this planet. And I did have a scientist one day tell me, we were talking, and he said, "There's nothing in science saying there can't be a Bigfoot." He said, we just haven't had the right evidence for that. He says, "But we got you guys out there looking. So one of these days, one of you guys is going to find it, and we can put the matter to rest."
There you go. Well, it's really bizarre, because it doesn't matter how good the evidence is, how good the video is, how clear the video is. Nothing. Nothing is satisfying anyone. And that's why, we had talked about the show Killing Bigfoot, which had to have its name changed because it offended so many people. But, you're going to have to come across a corpse to satisfy some of these people, because hair samples isn't doing it, sputum isn't doing it. Nothing is satisfactory. And, nobody's going by faith. So,
well, that's the way it's always been. Scientists are not going to acknowledge anything until they can put their hands on it, i.e. a carcass of one of these creatures.
Or unless it shows up on a beach somewhere.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like I said, I would tell people, do you think we should go kill one? And I was like, me personally, I'm not going out there to kill one. Mm-mm. That's not what I'm about. I'm one of those people, I just want to see it, watch it. I'll take film, I'll take pictures and all that, but I'm not out there to kill it. Now, if I'm out there and I do happen to come across a carcass of one of these animals, I'm not going to leave it there. I'm definitely going to, get it put into the back of my truck. And, like I was telling you, I always joke to everybody, I'm going to find me the first Wendy's restaurant and go stick it in the freezer, because anybody knows anything about Wendy's, they got huge freezers. And then I'm going to call all my friends and say, "Get over here and see this thing," because the government is eventually going to take it away from me. And, so, why do they have to take it away from me? Because it's an unknown animal. They would, I couldn't think of why they wouldn't take it away from me.
Right.
Because,
why would they allow you to have that?
Yeah, they're gonna take it, and examine it and find out what it is. If they haven't already, there's stories out there, that the government has already recovered, dead Bigfoots before. Right after Mount St. Helen blew up, there's stories that they had found some dead Bigfoot out there and recovered them and got them out of there. So, maybe they do. Maybe they have already recovered, I talked to a ranger one time about, why you guys keep it all hush hush about it. And he said, well, number one, if we, did acknowledge, we did have these big hairy creatures out there, there would be more people packing guns walking out in the woods, shooting at things.
Absolutely.
And number two, nobody would ever go camping anymore. They'd be scared there's a Bigfoot out there.
Well, sure. They know they are now, especially there, because that's where the Olympic Project is.
Oh yeah, but
they document these things.
Oh yeah, I if you're going to ask me point blank, do I believe there are large unknown hairy bipedal creatures roaming around parts of the United States and the world? I'd say yes. I've talked to some people who I believe saw something they couldn't explain. I have seen, tracks. I've got, castings of some of these tracks. And, I've seen some pictures. I believe the Patterson video is real. Or I should say I believe Patterson it wasn't a man in a suit. And again, that's me saying that. I'm not speaking for every Bigfoot hunter out there about it. But I believe the Patterson Gimlin video is legit of a large creature and not somebody in a suit.
Okay, we have to take a break. I'm so sorry because this is fascinating, but we will be right back. Y'all be sure and come back too because we've got some questions we're going to be answering when we come back.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Paratalk Radio is your one-stop for all things paranormal, the unknown, and the supernatural. Join us every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central for discussions and guests on topics such as ghosts, hauntings, Bigfoot, UFOs, and more. This broadcast is rated M for mature and intended for listeners over 16 on paratalkradio.com.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Cat Hobson, Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to Fate Mag Radio with my guest, Rob Robinson, and we are taking questions and discussing them now. And Sherry had said, so, she would be sad if they found a corpse of Bigfoot, and I was like, but they have to die like we do. I mean, everything dies. And she said, so, but where do they go? Since we haven't found any, I like to think their family takes them away, which is what I think happens when they die, or maybe aliens beam them up into their spaceships. But you've been here in Alabama. There are a lot of mounds that are not necessarily like Indian burial mounds. There have been places where there were known Indian and military fighting and massacres that happened and things of that nature that have mounds galore. Like everywhere you go in that area, like every 2 feet, there's a mound. But, when you're in the woods where there's not a great number of them, which would indicate something of, that much horror, then I think that some of the mounds that we see could potentially be, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, burial sites. And I'm not digging through that because I'm not going to disturb anyone or anything's final resting place. But I think that's a possibility.
Oh, it is. And I recall a while back, I had gone to a place called the Green Swamp, which is about 45 minutes west of Orlando. It's a big, huge wooded area. And I remember I had put some trail cams. I went out there to put some trail cams, and we came up near the where the game warden is, and we went by. And I look over, and I see this large pile of dead pigs that people had been out hunting and, killed and brought in and gutted and all that stuff. It was really large, and the smell was really bad. Well, we left, and when I went to put my trail cameras up, and then I came back about 2 weeks later, and I look, we came through the same area, and I noticed, looking at the pile, it was just completely gone. And I went up to the game warden. I said, man, you must have had a heck of a job getting rid of all those dead pigs. And he goes, oh, I didn't do anything. I said, well, what happened? He goes, nature has its own garbage disposal.
That's true.
So, as far as finding a body, when do you actually find a body of really anything out there? Unless, a bird fell out of a tree and, the day before and it was, rotting. And, occasionally, you may find a small, dead animal and stuff. But, you don't find remains of a dead bear or a dead panther or, anything like that. And
that's also true.
So, and somebody said, well, if you're, somebody said, well, why haven't you found a body? I said, if I can answer that, I could tell you exactly what a Bigfoot is. There wasn't a Bigfoot anymore, so I don't know the answer to that. Maybe one of these days we will find one.
Well, I think that it's more likely that because they do live in familial groups, from what my understanding and from the research of people around here, when I get a chance to talk to them, they explain these things. And, it's just like with any kind of ape, really, that, the juveniles are a little rougher around the edges and you don't really want to mess with them because they're full of, vigor and they're getting ready to be breeders or whatever, you don't really want to mess with them. So their behavior in the wild apparently is not unlike other wild animals. Nobody is giving these things, or nobody I know, is relating to them as human type intelligence. Although I think that they're very intelligent based on the fact that nobody can seem to catch one. But, I've seen a guy coming out of the woods and he just tossed his camera on his shoulder while he was walking away. And he never saw it, but somebody, when he posted his videos from that trip, saw a juvenile get up from beside a tree and turn around and walk away. And the guy was just like, I don't know if he even knew the camera was on, right? He just tossed it up on his shoulder as he walked. So they are the reigning kings of hide and seek,
Yeah,
But
yes, they are. The social distancing kings.
But, where they are confused, I think, with human behaviors versus wild animal behavior is that because they're bipedal, because they have a similarity in features, sometimes they're considered to be like humans. But I don't know anybody outside the film Harry and the Hendersons that ever depicted a human relationship with a Bigfoot. I've not seen.
Yeah.
Have you heard of those?
Well, there was a story out a number of years ago of a lady, I think she was up in Kentucky, and she said these Bigfoot creatures were coming on our property, and she was giving them stuff. She was never able to prove it. She was never able to give any physical evidence to back up her story. But there was some researchers that did go interview her and did go out, into the area to see if they could, substantiate her story. But most of the time, like I said, these animals they shy away from humans. I think a lot of times when there is encounters, the animal comes on the property because he's looking, he or she is looking for food, or I had an individual see one when he was sitting on a hunting stand, and the thing walked out in front of him. And I had a similar story where, and it was kind of funny because I was over in the Swanee River, and we were doing some Bigfoot hunting out there, which also, has stories of UFOs and other things that happen out there. But one morning we had come in and we were sitting there, and the manager knew what we were doing. We had kind of one time told her what we were out, and she said, "Hey, listen, that couple over there, and I think something happened. You may want to go talk to them." And I looked over, and there was this couple sitting at a table, both dressed in camouflage. And the woman was upset. She was crying, and she was pointing at her husband, yelling at him, and he was just trying to get her to come down, honey. People are looking at us, And she's like, "I don't care. I'm not, So I said, I told him the guy I was with, I said, "We should go over and talk to him." He said, "Well, she looks really upset." I said, "Well, let's just go up and, see what happens. If they don't want to talk to us, we'll walk away." So I went up, I introduced myself, and I said, "I understand you may have seen a Bigfoot." And she goes, "See, I told you that was a Bigfoot. I told you, why did you take me out there? I didn't want to do this, and you made me go out there." And he's like, "Honey, okay, come down, honey." And she was crying, really upset. And basically I got the story out, and mostly from her husband, that it was her first time out hunting. He had taken her on a boat down the Swanee River to a spot, and he put her in a tree stand, and then he took off and went to a different tree stand.
He left her in a tree stand?
A hunting tree stand. She had a gun, which I don't, but yeah. Anyway, she was sitting up there for a number of hours, and she said she fell asleep, and she woke up to something pulling on the ladder. And she looked down, and she saw this large, hairy creature with a very human face, and I remember her saying that, looking up at her. And it had reddish hair. It was very, very, she could see the muscle outline. The animal was extremely muscular. And she couldn't tell you how tall it was because, she's up in a tree stand looking down at it. But she said it was pretty tall. I mean, it probably could have reached up and touched her if it had wanted to. But she started, they looked at each other for a couple seconds, and then all of a sudden she started screaming, and it walked off. And I said, well, did it move off really quickly? No, she said, no, it walked off. And, her husband came up, and her husband said it took her about an hour to get off the tree stand because she was petrified, that this thing was out there. So after he got her down, they got in the boat, and they came right to the restaurant where we met him at. And, of course, I said, hey, could you show us where this happened? And she's like, I'm never going in the woods again, And he gave us directions, but I don't think we really, I don't think we found the spot because we didn't find the tree stands. And, we said, well, I wonder what, I made a comment. I said, I wonder why he came up to you. And her husband goes, probably heard you snoring, honey, Yeah. Anyway.
That is a complete no-win statement.
Yeah. But I really believe this lady saw something that she couldn't. I mean, she made a comment how it had a very human-looking face, so that rules out a bear.
Right.
And, she said it was very muscular. She could see the muscle pattern, and it had reddish hair. And, it said it walked off on two legs away, So, I mean, and, I believe her. I believe she saw something out there. And that area actually has had a history of Bigfoot sightings in that part. So, that's why we were out there.
Interesting. Well, I tell you, I have not seen one, but the ones that I've seen imagery of here are more brown than red.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then, of course, you have the Alabama white thing, which is not unlike the Florida skunk ape.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's so many things. I'm going to ask you a question from chat, and it's completely off this topic, but it is still strange and unusual. And you do work with MUFON. What is your opinion on alien abductions? Do they actually happen? What do you think they're trying to do to whoever they abduct?
Well, first part of the question, do I believe in abduction? I believe there have been some abductions. The Betty Barney Hill is an example where, because, they pretty much even, the investigators determined that something happened to this couple, that it wasn't, they weren't imagining this.
Right.
So, and I have talked to another lady down here in Florida. I forget her name. Actually, I have her book.
Kathleen?
I believe that's what it is.
Kathleen Martin.
But, yeah, it's her. I got to be, she invited me to come over one time to speak to a group that she was having over in Winter someplace. I can't remember now. It's been a number of years. I think it does happen. I'm not sure if it happens all the time. When I was speaking at the Mothman Festival, it seemed everybody who came up to me had been abducted by aliens, So, I don't know if all the stories are legit. Like I said, the Betty Barney Hill one, yes. In fact, I even wrote about it in my first book. There are some other stories out there, and again, I look at them, which there definitely does appear that something happened. Why do they happen? Again, these extraterrestrials are obviously interested in finding, what's going on. There's all kinds of theories about what these things are. I've heard there's been, a little bit off the subject where, people have seen UFOs and then seen a Bigfoot not too far after that, So some people believe that these creatures may be, of extraterrestrial nature. I haven't seen anything of that yet. but I haven't ruled it out. I always tell everybody I keep an open mind, but I don't keep it so open that my brain falls out, you know?
Oh,
So,
I use that line too. It's very descriptive.
yes. But, you know, the whole alien abduction, yeah, I think it's happened. I think there are instances out there where they have been investigated and determined that there's something did happen to these people, and you know, appear to be given examined and stuff. Oh gosh, I just drew a blank on the gentleman's name, and I even know him. Oh God.
That's okay. Is he an abductee?
He's got red hair and a mustache. He did that movie. The Fire in the Sky is based on his.
Travis Walton.
Travis. Oh my goodness, why did I even remember? I met him at Crypticon, and I sat down and had dinner with him, and David Barackman. David Barackman owns the Expedition Bigfoot Museum in Georgia, and talking to him and stuff. A very very intelligent man, And, sitting around talking to him, telling him, the stories and stuff, or telling us about what happened. I think something happened with him too.
Well, definitely.
I don't think he's making it up.
Well, he's not, because there were other men with him. They were on their way from work who saw him lifted into the craft. And those men were actually about to be charged with murder, because they couldn't produce him. That was the story they were telling. The police were convinced that he had been killed by them. And he showed up, 5 days later? And, it's probably the best documented UFO abduction with the most witnesses to the actual leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And really, the take on it at this point is that the wash that he got into had killed him, and they were trying to save him, which would be a pretty altruistic thing for aliens to do. But
like I said,
it's a trip.
Oh, he is a fascinating person if you ever meet him. I mean, really, sit down and talk with him, and he'll turn on and ask you about stuff you do too. It's not a one-sided conversation. He likes to hear about what you do too. So
yeah, he doesn't much like to share his experience anymore. I mean, it bothers him still, I think.
He does. Yeah, it does. He made a comment though. It does. It's still. He still has nightmares and stuff about it. Yeah, he did say that.
It does. He does. And, that's something that there's something about each of these very possibly and probably, and in my mind, very true experiences, which is that there was always something, right? There's something about each case, like, they couldn't work the zippers in the Betty and Barney Hill case. Travis was probably dying or dead when they took him on the craft. And, he says that when he woke up, he could just tell that there was something very wrong. He kept coming in and out. And then, tried to fight them when he realized that they looked like bugs. They freaked him out. There's all kinds of things. And like Calvin Parker in Pascagoula, Mississippi, who also tried to fight. Well, we're at our final break.
Okay.
And I want to continue this with you because you do get a chance to meet people. And for everyone listening, this is our final break. Go into chat and put your questions in there if you have any for him. Because I'm going to tell you, Rob has some really good answers. So we'll be right back. Y'all come back too.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
This is Jason Bland, host of Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, where we stream live as a webcast every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, with guests who will blow your mind. Live ghost box sessions where you can call into the show to see if the spirits will talk to you, and the world wide web of weird with the latest in paranormal news and evidence. We're bringing the weird every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow and subscribe.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back for the final segment of Fate Mag Radio, the online voice of Fate Magazine. I'm Kat, your host, and my guest is Rob Robinson, legend tripper extraordinaire. And a legendary one, too. So, we were talking about different well-known alien abduction cases because Sherry had asked if you had come across any of what your opinion was. But what do you actually think they were trying to do with the with those cases? I mean,
do you mean as far as the government with the cases, or?
Well, a little of both, I think. You know, because you've got the alien agenda, which, by the way, was a Jim Marrs book titled. Don't give me credit for that. But then you've got the whole what was the goal in taking these people?
You know, I mean, again, you know, from what I've looked at, and again, you know, Travis Walton and Betty and Barney Hill, and is that they are, you know, they were examined. You know, these beings, extraterrestrials, obviously have an interest in the humans for some sort, or so. I mean, you know, you also have the cattle mutilations and stuff where things have, you know, animals have been killed and there's parts of their anatomy have been removed. You know, they've had, and they still do have it out there at the Skinwalker Ranch.
Yes.
So, I mean, I don't know the agenda. I mean, somebody said, would you wanted to get abducted by aliens? I said, well, as long as they don't, you know, chop me all up into, you know, cadaver, you know. I mean, who wouldn't want to verify if they're, you know, extraterrestrials and stuff? I mean, you know, Travis's experience was really, really, you know, very terrifying, you know, and I'd hate to go through what he went through. Betty and Barney Hill, you know, it did leave, you know, a very emotional, you know, on them. So that's kind of a, you know, I mean, I guess I'd like to see a UFO and see aliens, but I don't know if I want to be laying down on a examination, you know, getting, you know, probed or, you know, examined with their alien instruments or whatever. But I don't know the agenda other than they all the stories that I've looked at, the abductee always gets examined.
Well, yes. And I'm with you. I don't think that's my color Kool-Aid either. I'm 100% sure. But now I would like to be the kind of abductee that gets to fly the plane.
Yeah.
Because from what I understand, it's mind controlled, right? And you just put your hand on or over the joystick, is what we would call it here, and you just think of where you want to go, and boom, there you are. How cool would that be?
Yeah, we have a story here in Florida that happened back in the 60s. John Reeves, I think it was his name. And John came forward and said that a spaceship had landed in his backyard or on his property, and that he had met the aliens, and they had taken him on the spaceship and took him to the moon. And he got to see like the dark side of the moon, and they brought him back. And, you know, a lot of people, of course, you know, he didn't believe him. But he did have, he did recover some, he said he reached down and recovered some stuff, moon dust or moon dirt, as you were, from the Earth's surface. And he did say, here's some of that dirt that I recovered. And it was, in fact, moon dust.
Oh, so, wow.
And he did maintain this story up until the day he died. In fact, he built a replica of the spaceship on his property until some teenagers came on the property and almost destroyed the whole thing, you know, because John was getting, you know, old in his age. But he was, you know, very open about talking about it.
Wow, that is awesome. You know, I find it interesting that there's so varied reports of the interaction. You know, some abductees are terrified and scarred for life. Some abductees have a positive interactive experience. Some abductees are impregnated and then, you know, there's the empty womb syndrome. And I've interviewed one woman and had a conversation with another who both experienced that. The first one, the one I interviewed, was aware and actually felt that she was in a relationship. The other, it was a family experience, and, you know, but both felt they had seen their child later, you know, as an adolescent or adult. So, you know, I don't know what to take from that either. Bigfoot is much easier.
Yeah. Well, right? I heard a theory that aliens had come down millions of years ago and had mated with, I guess, Neanderthal or whatever, and it ended up producing the Cro-Magnon man. That's where humans have come from, was the interaction between aliens and Neanderthals.
Interesting.
I mean, that is an interesting idea because, you know, it's kind of, you know, looking at the cycle, how things happen the way they did, and, you know, because, you know, it could be possible. You know, I mean, there are stories in the Bible of, you know, the angels coming down and, you know, mating with human women, you know, which. Yes. So, I mean, it's not far-fetched. It could happen, you know, and I always tell people, I said, I mean, it could happen. You know, it could be, you know.
Well, I mean, it is biblical. So if it could happen at that point, why could it not happen later or earlier?
Yeah, absolutely. It sure could.
And, you know, that's actually a very good point, because there is no missing link. I mean, they have not found the missing link that took us from point A to point B.
Mm-hmm.
And why would that not be a possibility? It makes as much sense as anything else they've tried to throw at the books.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, and again, I heard this once, but I don't remember the whole story, that humans have a certain gene in them that Neanderthals don't. So, if the, aliens did come down and did mate or, with the Neanderthals, and then the offspring, of course, was the Cro-Magnon or human beings, that gene would be there from, the extraterrestrial gene would be there, where
Yes.
they wouldn't see it in Neanderthal. So, I mean, I've always been fascinated when I heard that story, and I just say, wow, that's interesting. That could,
That is.
So, really cool.
Well, when you sit back and you look at things, it's not really, Bigfoot is not something that is unreasonable to expect to find out in the field.
No, it's not.
There's too many experiencers. There's too many decades and centuries of experience, right? This has been documented for years.
Oh,
Then,
yeah, absolutely.
then people like you who go out into the field looking, yeah, you're bringing back evidence.
That's absolutely. That's what I go out there looking for.
Yeah. And I think that my instincts were brilliant when I asked you to come on with me, because while I should have known your work better, I was so impressed by what you were doing now.
Mm-hmm.
Things that you were sharing and stuff. And I would definitely put you as one of the best researchers in your field.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So I'm so glad that I asked and you said yes. So, yeah, because this has actually been a learning thing for me. I've not had much of an idea of what was actually involved with the work that you're doing and how you're planning your legend tripping. I think that it's fantastic that you and your wife chose this as something to study and experience. And I'm so glad that you were here to share it.
Well, I do appreciate you having me on. Like I said, being a not total lifelong, but a long fan of Fate magazine, this is quite an honor to come on there and talk with a magazine that has had such a strong influence on me for a long period of time.
Well, I hope it continues to. I know that the new articles coming out or the new oh, come on, brain. The new issues coming out, they just keep getting better and better. I'm always fascinated when I get my new one. And it's, if I ever get a chance to get to any other cons, I have copies. I think I might start giving them out during the shows too, because otherwise my whole office is going to be overrun by boxes of Fate magazines until I can get to the cons again. But for those who are listening, and I know that there are a lot, and we get tons and tons of downloads too, because there's a lot of good radio on Sunday nights, right? Mm-hmm. So I know that I go back and listen to other people's archives because I like the information shared there too. Tell people how they can find you.
I do have a website, International Legend Tripping. It's being redone. It used to be Legend Trippings of America, and since putting the new book out, I changed it to International Legend Tripping. And my wife mostly my wife, is in the process of redoing it. But I can be located on Facebook under Robert Robinson Legend Tripper. And I love to meet new people. I love to hear stories. And, that's probably the best way to get a hold of me right now.
Okay.
If you're interested in my books, you can get them on Amazon or with my publisher, Adventures Unlimited Press. A quick explanation on my books. There are guidebooks on how to go out and look for legends, Bigfoot, haunted places, UFOs, buried treasure. I do touch on buried treasure. I touch on a lot of mysterious places around the United States, like Gravity Hills and stuff. And I do go over, talk about some of the legend trippers. I go over organizations that you can contact. I go over even some museums. I talk about Ripley's Believe It or Not, which, believe it or not, they actually have a lot of stuff about legends in them. And, of course, my new book, International Legend Tripping, it's just like the first one, only it's all over the world, So
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it just came out. I'm real excited about it. It's on Amazon, and it came out better than I thought it was going to come out. Like I said,
wow, that's amazing and fantastic.
And I have my awesome publisher, David Hatcher Childress, to thank for that.
Well, you know what? He is an awesome publisher. I know some of the people in his stable of writers, and y'all are all good. So
yeah, I get to do articles for his magazine, Adventure, World Explorers. In fact, I have an article coming about cursed places, and I also do the Cryptid Corner. I do all the research. Yeah, I do all the research for that part.
I didn't know that. I've read your column then. So because I get that magazine, well, periodically I get that magazine, but I just love it. So cool beans. I love that. So we are out of time. I hate when we're out of time. I am so thrilled to have had you, and our chat room is thin, but they have loved every minute of it. And, I am looking forward to the next time we get a chance to talk, because I'm going to have questions about this new book too.
Okay.
So, and that being said, we always hope for the very best in our world, but if you are unhappy with the way you see things, then you can change that. If you feel that life is not what you are comfortable in, you can manifest and change that by changing you, even. Be the friends you'd like to have, be the spouse you'd love to have, be the child that you wish that you had been as you go through your days. I mean, the wonder and the joy of childhood exploration can still be yours as an adult. Just like with Rob, as he goes out and finds things that just create wonder for sharing with us. So, just even if you've got a mask on, when you smile, those eyes show it. Try it out. We will talk with y'all next week. Thank you for being here. Same cat time, same cat channel. Good night.